recording. Remember that our questions today were, why was this called Columbus Day? And why do we not call it that anymore? So who knows who Columbus was? Emma, go ahead.
He thought he was venturing to Portugal, but he thought the distance was 200 and 600 miles or something, but not to mention there's a whole country in between.
Was this some guy last week doing this?
Huh?
When was this going on?
1492.
Ah, in 1492. How many of you know that date? We had a little rhyme that I did in kindergarten. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Em, do you want to add to that? Thank you, Emma. Em, do you want to add to that?
My group thought that the name might have changed because they didn't think that it should be just singling on one person.
Okay, so maybe because they didn't want to single it on one person. Who knows anything else about Columbus? Looks like I see Alex, your hand is raised. Tell us what you know.
From what I know, Columbus is a sailor and he discovered the America on accident.
Okay, so he discovered, for a long time we said he discovered America.
Yeah.
But he was sailing, he was trying to go to India, right? He was actually Italian, but he went to Spain and he got money from the Spanish kings and queens who wanted him to go claim land for Spain. And they really wanted to go to India and get spices, but he didn't know that North and South America were in the way. So he was sailing and he bumps into actually the islands off the coast, off the east coast of the United States. And he never did step foot on this country. But for years and years, we said, oh, Columbus discovered America. Well, friends, was anyone already living here? Who can tell me about that? Subi, go ahead.
The Native Americans were already living here in America for more than 100 years before Columbus just came and bumped into the east coast of America.
So you're so right, except for one little detail. So we have been Westerners, people with light colored skin, have been on this continent, on North and South America, for a couple of 100 years. The Native Americans, the indigenous people, which means the first peoples who were in this land, they were here for thousands of years before Columbus or any of the other explorers came over here. So we came and find these cultures they were amazing cultures. How many of you have seen the pyramids or pictures of them in Mexico? Pyramids, governments, they studied the stars, they knew about astronomy, they knew about the calendar, they had money, they had languages, all sorts of culture. Huge groups of people were here. And then Columbus came and said he discovered it. A little bit arrogant, right? That's like you walking into your brother's room and say, I just discovered this room and everything in it is mine. And that was kind of what Columbus and those other guys did. Haben, did you want to add to that?
Actually, his name wasn't Christopher Columbus. It was Cristoforo Colombo or something like that.
Well, you know what's interesting, Haben? And I always think this is a weird thing about languages. When we went down to Mexico, all of a sudden they were talking about this guy, Cristobal Colon. Well, that's the Spanish version of his name. But he actually has an Italian version of his name too. So everybody's name and even country names, they change when you're in different countries. Like we call Germany, Germany, but what do they call it? Does anybody know? It's called Deutschland. We call the United States, but in France, we're les États-Unis. So every language has different names for people and countries. Good point, Haben. Okay, so we got this guy, he comes over, he discovers America. He has light colored skin. So then when kids start going to school in the United States and we decided to teach them history, first of all, who do you think was writing the history books back then? Do you think that the Native Americans were writing the history books?
No.
No. Anybody have a guess who was writing the history books? Okay, I'm just gonna say it. It's the white guys, old white men, were writing those history books, and they decided that this other white guy who discovered America should be a hero. And so they made all these days. We used to celebrate President George Washington's birthday, and we used to have President's Day, and we still have President's Day, but it's a little different now, and Columbus Day, and all these days. And then at one point, somebody kind of was thinking about it, and they thought, wait a minute, we're celebrating this man who came over, first of all, claimed a land that wasn't his, and then killed a whole bunch of native people. Is that a thing we really want to celebrate? What do you guys think? Joey, you're saying no? Clara saying no? So honestly, in the time from when I was a little girl until the time when you guys are kids, that day has changed. And we no longer celebrate this guy who came over and kind of took over. We still learn about him historically, but we don't celebrate him, right? And instead, we celebrate the great cultures who had this land first, who lived here for thousands of years. So I'm going to read a book. You might have heard it before. It's Brother Eagle, Sister Sky. Now, this book is a little bit controversial. Some people say it's not exactly true what they say about it, but it's supposedly a speech that Chief Seattle, and that name should be familiar, gave at the time when they were having the Indian Wars, where the settlers were coming west and they were taking over the land and they were wiping out the Indians. Although, does anyone know what most of the Native Americans died of? Anybody? It's interesting, Clara, go ahead. It's interesting because of what's going on right now.
I believe. I don't remember the exact name of the illness, but I do believe it's an illness.
Yes, so it's kind of like coronavirus, right? We don't have immunity to coronavirus because it's a new disease that we haven't been exposed to. And that's why so many people are getting sick with it. Same thing happened for the Native Americans. They'd been living here for thousands of years. Then when the Europeans came over, they brought diseases that the Native Americans did not have immunity to. And almost 80%, you guys, almost 80% of the people died of these diseases, smallpox and things like that. Jaden, did you have a question or something to add?
Yeah, so was the disease did it start with it was black something?
Well, you're probably talking about the plague or the Black Death in Europe. That was another one, but that one wasn't here. So we've got this land, we've got these people here for thousands of years with their beautiful cultures, and then the Europeans came over, and because they had guns and because they had sort of like greed to take over the land, they took over, and we've taken the land from the Native Americans. Whereas at one time in this country, Native Americans were all over the United States. Now they are relegated to these tiny little reservations in really some of the worst land in the United States. It's a very sad story. But this is a speech that Chief Seattle gave when he was tired of fighting. So these are his actual words. And I'm not going to show you the pictures because it's just a little too hard. I was trying to get my iPad working so I could show you the pictures, but you can look it up. In a time so long ago that nearly all traces of it are lost in the prairie dust, an ancient people were a part of the land that we love and call America. Living here for thousands of years, their children became the great Indian civilizations of the Choctaw and the Cherokee, the Navajo, the Iroquois, and Sioux, among many others. Make sure that your cameras are muted because I'm hearing some background noise. Then white settlers from Europe began a bloody war against the Indians, and in the span of a single lifetime, claimed all the Indians' land for themselves, allowing them only small tracts of land to live on. When the last of the Indian wars were drawing to a close, one of the bravest and most respected chiefs of the Northwest nations, Chief Seattle, sat at a white man's table to sign a paper called a treaty presented by the new Commissioner of Indian Affairs for the territory. The government in Washington, D.C. wished to buy the lands of Chief Seattle's people. With a commanding presence and eyes that mirrored the great soul that lived within, the chief rose to speak to the gathering in a resounding voice. How can you buy the sky? Chief Seattle began. I'm gonna have a hard time reading this. It kind of chokes me up. How can you own the rain and the wind? My mother told me, every part of this earth is sacred to our people. Every pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, Every meadow and humming insect are holy in the memory of our people. My father said to me, I know the sap that courses through the trees, as I know the blood that flows in my veins. We are part of the earth, and it is part of us. The perfumed flowers are our sisters. The bear, the deer, the great eagle, these are our brothers. The rocky crest, the meadows, the ponies, all belong to the same family. The voice of my ancestors said to me, the shining water that moves in the streams and rivers is not simply water, but the blood of your grandfather's grandfather. Each ghostly reflection in the clear waters of the lake tells of memories in the life of our people. The water's murmur is the voice of your great-great-grandmother. The rivers are our brothers. They quench our thirst. They carry our canoes and feed our children. You must give to the rivers the kindness you would give to any brother. The voice of my grandfather said to me, the air is precious. It shares its spirit with all the life it supports. The wind that gave me my first breath also received my last sigh. You must keep the land and air apart and sacred as a place where one can go to taste the wind that is sweetened by meadow flowers. When the last red man, they used to call Native Americans red man just because of the color of their skin. They aren't really red. It's kind of silly. When the last red man and woman have vanished with the wilderness and their memory is only the shadow of a cloud moving across the prairie, will the shores and forests still be here? Will there be any of the spirit of my people left? My ancestors said to me, this we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. I'd like you to think about that. Think about that. What does that mean? We belong to the earth. It does not belong to us. The voice of my grandmother said to me, teach your children what you have been taught. The earth is our mother. What happens to the earth happens to the sons and daughters of the earth. On this page, they're looking at a clear-cut forest. And here's the beautiful forest behind them. Hear my voice and the voice of my ancestors, Chief Seattle said. The destiny or future of your people is a mystery to us. What will happen when the buffalo are all slaughtered, the wild horses tamed? What will happen when the secret corners of the forest are heavy with the smell of man? When the view of the ripe hills is blotted by talking wires? Where will the thickets be? Gone. Where will the eagle be? Gone. And what will happen when we say goodbye to the swift pony and the hunt? It will be the end of living and the beginning of survival. The end of living and the beginning of survival. This we know, all things are connected like the blood that unites us. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. We love this earth as a newborn loves its mother's heartbeat. If we sell you our land, care for it as we have cared for it. Hold in your mind the memory of the land as it is when you receive it. Preserve the land and the air and the rivers for your children's children, and love it as we have loved it. So today I ask you, on a day of celebration and remembrance of Native peoples, what plans do you have? What things do you do to help care for our earth and for this land? There are many jobs where we can work. Like I have a friend who works for the tribes and she helps them protect their lands and waters. There are other things going on right now, believe it or not. We are still negotiating the treaties with the Native Americans to pay them back for all of our broken promises. So some people become people who help with that, with the negotiations for that. What do you think we owe these people for what has happened in this country, and how much of what happened before we came here? Because of course you guys have only been here, 10 years or less, and you weren't here. You weren't the ones who did this. But right now, I think we're all asking ourselves, when you live in a country that was built upon some bad things like this happening, how much of it becomes our responsibility to try to fix as we grow up? So I don't think we're going to talk about that anymore right now, unless somebody really has something they want to add. But it's something to think about as we think about this day and what it means to us, and why we've changed it from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And by Indigenous, we mean not just in the United States, but in the whole world, because the story of the United States, sadly, is the story of the whole world. And almost all the world, they've taken over the lands from the first people who were there, who lived it a little bit more reasonable way. So think about that today, learn about it if you'd like to, do a little research, and we're gonna move on. The social studies unit you're about to start does talk about Native Americans. So you're welcome to take a look at that. I always want you to do your math and your reading first and your writing. I was gonna show you this assignment I made for writing. What I would like you to do during this unit, I felt like the writing in the last unit was pretty confusing, and it didn't even tell you to turn in your final essay. And so I was gonna make an assignment to have you turn it in, but then I talked to Nat's mom and she was like, you know what, it really wasn't clear that the kids had to write it. So I wanna be really clear with you right now, and I think we have almost everybody here. This unit, in the next 3 weeks, you're gonna be writing a personal narrative story. So it's a story that is based on something true that happened in your life. Everything in the story does not have to be entirely true, because a lot of times we don't remember all the details of our stories. And so if you need to add some details to make it come alive that aren't exactly true, that's okay to do, because you could imagine that. But you're gonna write a story. And every day when we have our Zoom sessions, I'm actually gonna give you a little mini lesson on how to write a story. Then you can also use the lessons in the unit, but I don't really like the way they teach you to write a story. Like, they tell you that this week, the very first thing you do, they don't teach you how to come up with an idea for a story. I'm going to talk about that today. They don't teach you how to plan a story that's interesting. They just tell you, like, think of all the details all at once, all the characters, all the settings. And so I don't love the way they teach it on Florida Virtual. So I'm going to be teaching it each day. So I want you to bring, and I'm going to have you go get this in a minute, a writer's notebook and a pen or pencil. And we're actually going to write together right here. It'll be pretty short, like 15 minutes. And then I'll set you loose on your own to keep writing. But this week is the week where we're thinking of our story, planning our story. Don't go get it right now, you guys. You can go get it later. And getting ready to write a story. Next week, we're going to write the whole story. And then the week after that, we're going to edit it and revise it. How many people does that sound a little more like how you wrote at school, where you do a week of planning, week of writing, week of editing? Awesome. So that's the plan. In 3 weeks, you absolutely must have a story written in first person. I did this, I did that, right? Has to be based on something true that happened in your life. And I'm going to talk more about it later. The rest of the curriculum for this week is you're starting some new units. So there's some pre-tests, and then you are continuing other things. So I think you're fine. Almost all of you have talked to me last week. There's 5 of you who didn't get to talk to me last week. And I already have an appointment with Nat, and I'm gonna make appointments with, let's see, Joey, I need to talk to you. Deckard, Gerard, are you on here today? I need to see if Gerard's here. Oh, he is. Hey, Gerard, can you turn on your screen for a minute so I can talk to you? Hello, Gerard, are you there? So Gerard, I need you to stay on after. Oh, there you are, good. Gerard, if you could stay on after today, I wanna talk to you and your mom. If you guys can stay on, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so you stay on at the end. And then Joey and Deckard, I think I'll have you guys stay on tomorrow, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. And then Grace, I saw that you submitted all of yours, like you wrote them, and it looks like you talked to Mom. So I'll talk to you on Thursday. Okay, Grace? Yes, Grace, are you there? Is Grace here? Uh-oh, I don't see her. Oh, there she is, Gracie. Okay, Gracie, just give me a thumbs up and that's good. Okay, so Thursday after, I'll have you stay on and we'll talk on Thursday. All right, Nat, I'll talk to you today. Gerard, I'll talk to you today, and Deckard and Joey tomorrow. Perfect. Let's see. So we talked about Indigenous peoples today, going over curriculum. So with the writing, again, you can do it just the way Florida Virtual tells you, but at the end, you have to submit your story. So I think there's a sign at the end that tells you to submit it. Small moment story. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is play a little game. This one's going to get you guys all up. So everybody stand up. This game is a bit of a race and a scavenger hunt. It's called Go Get It Quick. And first of all, you're going to need to take off your headphones if you have them on.
The screen is all black. I can't see anybody's like icon thing. I just see their names.
Yeah, I think that happens on your own. Is that Clara? So it happens sometimes, but the only way to fix it, Clara, is to log out and log back in, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna do that right now then.
But I don't think you want to. Don't do it right now because I think you're going to want to play the game. Well, it's up to you. Okay, so guys, this is the way this game works. You're going to have to take off your headphones because you're going to need to run around. And you have to be safe, so do not crash into anybody and don't break anything and don't hurt yourselves. And I'm going to tell you to go get something, and you have to go get it quick and bring it and show it to the camera. So this is called Go Get It Quick. Very first thing, you have to go get quick, and be careful, don't run with this and fall. Take off those headphones, guys. How are you going to go get it? A fork. Go get it quick.
A fork?
I can't see your thing because it's black.
My screen is black for you. Is that Clara?
Yes.
Clara, did you log out and log back in?
Okay, I'll do that.
Do that. And then everybody else put it on either speaker view or pin my video. All right. Abby, go find something to write with, sweetie, a pen or a pencil, marker, something. You need to have something to write with because you're doing writing right now. And then keep bringing it every time you come from now on. All right, friends. Okay, so the very first thing, for some reason I have Ms. Watson pinned. Let me pin my own video. There we go. Oh, this is kind of interesting. It says I can spotlight my video for everyone, but I'm not going to do that right now. All right. So we are doing writing, and we are starting a personal narrative story. And kids, some kids have a really easy time coming up with good story ideas, but for other kids, the hardest part is figuring out, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? And so the very first step in the writing process is to generate ideas, come up with a lot of ideas. I always say it's kind of like a shoe store. If you go in a shoe store and you walk in and you don't think about what kind of shoes you need or how much money you have or what size you wear, and you just walk in a shoe store and you grab the first pair of shoes that you think looks cool and you walk out of that shoe store, do you think that's going to be a very good fit for you? They're not even your size, and you don't even know if you want those shoes, and you haven't really thought about what you want to write it for. So the very first thing I always say to kids is, and I've said this to you guys before, we don't do so what writing. No way. We always think about what we want to write and why we want to write it. And we try on a bunch of pairs of shoes or try on a bunch of ideas before we get writing. So today, let me tell you a little bit about why you're writing a narrative story.
I don't know what they're saying.
Clara, are you there? I can still hear you, honey. Okay. So a narrative story is a story that tells something about your life, but it's not just a so what story. It should tell about a time in your life. Like, think about the stories that you like to read.
Miss Laws, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Because I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Clara?
I can't hear you. Can you type it in chat?
I'm gonna double check and make sure her
Clara,
volume is
honey,
turned up.
Clara, I'm gonna record it so you can watch it later, okay? Just tell her that in chat, that we're gonna record it and watch it later. Okay, so here's the thing about this story. When you write a story, would you like to read a story that goes like this? I got up in the morning and I had a really fun trip to the beach, and I got in the car and I drove to the beach and I ate some noodles, and then I went and walked on the beach, and then I saw my dog, and then my mom said, come here, and then we went over to the store, and then we got back in the car, and then we drove home, and then I had pizza for dinner, and then I went to bed. How many of you think that's a great story? No, please no. I call that a bed to bed story. It just tells what you did and it's kind of like a so what story. It doesn't really teach you anything, and there's no reason to read it. So the first thing you have to think to yourself is, what kind of stories do I like to read? Stories that are interesting, stories that are scary, stories that teach me something, stories that are sad. And that's the kind of story that you should write. And so when you're thinking of an idea for a story, most kids are like, I want to write a really exciting story. Well, I have to tell you that sometimes exciting stories are good, but there's an awful lot of great stories. I'm going to read one to you on Thursday. It's really about nothing. It's called 11, and it's about a little girl sitting in her school and being super embarrassed, a time when she was super embarrassed. Which brings me to my first topic. Sometimes the best stories are the stories with the most emotion, where you felt strong emotions. So what I would like you to do in your notebook is I would like you to make a T chart. So everybody right now is going to make what I call a T chart, like this. And at the top of that T chart, you're going to write strong emotions. Okay? Strong emotions. Someone needs to mute. Okay. Thank you. Strong emotions. And now you're going to think about times when you felt really strong emotions. I remember when I was a little girl, I felt really sad. And so this one, you're going to write the emotion over here. And the reason that I felt sad, the one time that I felt sad, so I want to write one time, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. But the time that I felt really sad, the one time when I felt really sad was when my dog, Noelle, died. I felt so sad that night. So when my dog, Noelle, died, I'm going to write that over there. And then I might think of another time I felt really, really sad. I know that it's a lot of death here, but when my grandpa called to say that my grandmother died. I cried and cried that night.
Wait, what are we doing? I got kicked out.
So we are making a T chart, Adrienne, of strong emotions, and we're just trying to think of some good stories of times when we had really strong emotions, because they're going to be more interesting stories.
Okay.
So I made a T chart, and on one side I put the emotion. I started with sad. You can start with whatever you'd like. And I wrote down 2 times when I felt really sad: when my dog died, when my grandfather called to tell me that my grandmother had died. Kind of morbid. I felt really sad also, maybe disappointed is a better word. One Christmas when I didn't get the present I wanted.
Oh, that always stinks.
Appointed. I was disappointed at Christmas. I really wanted this music box with a ballerina that twirled around, and I didn't get it. So that was a time when I felt really disappointed. Another great emotion. So you guys should be doing the exact thing I'm doing, only you're writing down your own one times. And you can continue this later. So I would recommend you leave some space to add more later after I'm done. Another emotion, let's see. You guys unmute for a second and tell me some more emotions that you think are good, strong emotions. Go ahead, just say them.
Curious.
I hear anger, fear,
Excited.
excitement, and sometimes you feel all of them at once. Let's do fear. I've seen kids write amazing stories about fear, like a time they really wanted to go on a roller coaster and they were afraid, and they did the whole story waiting in line. Those are amazing stories. I love those roller coaster stories. Like all the thoughts that go through your head when you're waiting in line trying to go on a really scary ride. Or the first time they rode a bike when their parents let go of them. Anybody feel afraid then? First time you rode a bike? I've seen some amazing ones about crashes, like riding a bike down a hill and crashing. Those are some pretty good stories.
I did a story about that last year when I got my first bike.
Yeah, those are good stories. Another one that I've seen is it's kind of sad and it's kind of fear when people got into car accidents. I've
Yeah.
seen some amazing stories about car accidents. I've seen some really great brave stories about sad when parents got divorced and like when the kids were sat down in the living room to be told about divorce. You might think, oh, I don't want to write about anything that personal. Your story will be private if you want it to be. If you don't, our plan is when we're done writing these stories at the end of this month, we're going to have a writer's celebration and we're going to share our stories. So you guys said like happy or excited. I have seen some amazing excited stories when people like got a puppy. The first time they met their puppy or went to pick out their puppy. Amazing stories about when a sibling was born and they went to the hospital to visit their sibling. Got a puppy or got a new brother or sister, a new baby. A lot of kids like to write about trips they've taken. The problem with those is they're too big of stories. So you need to pick a part of the trip that you really loved. So like a camping trip when you were super excited to like set up the tent. So you just pick one part of it and tell just that little part of the story. Because otherwise you're writing a novel and we don't have time for a novel today, even though some of you have already written novels, which is cool. Did you know that you are among authors here? Several of you have already got books going. All right, friends, today and every day when we're writing, we want to take the time to think about what we want to write and what we want to say. And we want to try on a lot of ideas. If I were in class with you, I would force you to sit here and start one of these stories. I'd say, pick a story. I'd say, okay, you're going to write as much as you can about that story for 5 minutes. And in fact, anybody who wants to stay on, we can try this. And after 5 minutes, I say, now you need to change. Pick a new story, write about it for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, the bell would ring and I say, now we're going to change. And I would make you write a third story for 5 minutes. And what you're doing is trying out the stories to see how much you have to say about them and how easy they are to write. So I recommend you try on these stories today. Sit down and write just for 5 minutes about one, and then switch to another and switch to another, and just try on some stories. Now, I talked a little bit about not a bed to bed story. How many of you have heard the term seed story? Anybody hear that one? So if you think about a watermelon, if you tell me about your trip, make sure you, Emma, mute your screen, honey. If you write me a watermelon story, it's like, hey, last year I had the most fun trip. We went to Sun River and I'm going to tell you every single thing we did for 7 days. That's a watermelon story. It's too big. What I want is not even a piece of watermelon. I want the seed. I just want a tiny idea. So like I said, if you're writing about that trip to Sun River, ask yourself which day was the best day. And that maybe is the piece of watermelon. And then say, what particular thing I did that day was the best part? Like maybe it's when you rafted down the river and you had like a big water fight. Or maybe it was when you went out to dinner and your parents embarrassed you by singing happy birthday to you in front of everybody. Or, you know, you need to pick one little part of that story and just tell that part well. And you might think, oh, I don't know what I'm going to be able to write that much about them singing happy birthday to me. But I am telling you that I'm going to read you a story that's about 6 pages long, that's about a teacher putting a sweater on a kid's desk, and you are going to be totally into that story. It's an amazing story. Okay? So stories don't have to be about a lot if they're written well, which is what we want to learn to do. That's it for my lesson today. I'm going to have Gerard stay on with me. Everybody else, you guys can go. But 2 things. Tonight there's a family engagement night. It's a little bit weird because most of it's recorded. But there's directions for it that I sent your parents through Canvas. And I also have it on the homepage of our language arts page. How many people saw it this morning? Did anybody see it? Yep. So it's got a couple of things. It's got the timing of stuff tonight, but the only part tonight that's live is the question and answers. You guys don't have to come. Your parents can come if they want to, or they can just watch it and go check out the pages. Okay? And then the other thing that I was going to say, oh, we have our club today. Ms. Watson, do you want to talk about what's going on with that? Or
Oh yeah, well today is art club though, right? Is that what's going on this morning? Because I think Wednesday.
Monday is Minecraft Club.
Oh goodness, sorry. Wow, I'm way off.
Right?
Yeah, so no, Monday is just Minecraft Club. It's up to you guys. We're working on trying to see about getting a server made for those of you that are playing on Java, because I know some of you can't connect to the current server because it's not on Java.
Another request, Ms. Watson, I floated this form, which half of you guys have done the online form. Thank you. The other half of you need to do it. I already sent in the suggestion about the mascot to our principal and said we need to choose a mascot for the school. So whoever's idea that was, thank you. One of the suggestions was that we, you know how we're opening up chess club to being board game club, but some kids actually asked if maybe we could open up Minecraft and make it other online games as well, other video games. I think we have to be a little bit careful because some parents don't like nothing with shooting.
Right.
Right.
And it's got to be something that multiple people can access. So we'll talk about it today at Minecraft Club then and see what our options are. Go ahead, Emma.
I don't really like the fact that when I can't go on the Minecraft and everyone just plays like and I feel kind of lonely.
I understand that, Emma, and I'm working on that. I think that's why we're looking at making a server for the groups that are playing Java, because I think you're playing Java Edition. And what I would recommend, Emma, is just double check and make sure that your game is fully updated, because I'm not sure why you can't add friends on yours. I've never had that happen before. So just double check, make sure you're fully updated. You might want to consider uninstalling it and reinstalling it. That might help. I'm problem solving. We're working on it, Emma, I promise.
And then friends, I sent a message off to your parents saying that if you are interested in playing Monopoly online, there's a free version, but you have to have your parents' permission and they have to go in and set up the account on Pogo. And if they say no, it's okay, because we're going to add other games to that board game club and do some that we're going to just be able to do if you have dice at your house. So, all right. Anything else? Oh, I know the last thing. The other teacher had this great suggestion. She said at the end of her units, the kids were asking for some social groups to be able to chat about things. So she said she set up chat rooms or breakout rooms at the end, and she let kids talk for about 15 minutes about, she had one room that was for video games. Kids were talking about video games. She had one room that was for kids who wanted to talk about, well, I decided you guys would like a Wings of Fire group because there's so many Wings of Fire fans. And then another group that was talking about sports. And I don't know, do you guys have any other groups you want, or are those three enough? Alma, what else? You were the Wings of Fire one.
Yeah, but like maybe just other books, like.
Okay, well, we can do Wings of Fire and books. That can be one group. Video games is a group, sports is a group. How about cooking? Do I have cooking fans who want to talk about cooking? Okay. So if you have those four groups, 1 is video games, 2 is Wings of Fire, 3 is sports, 4 is cooking. You can either leave right now or you can ask to be put in a breakout room, and I will put you in there. So raise your hand if you would like to be in the video game breakout room. So who have we got?
I want to.
Okay, just a minute, because I'm going to have to assign them manually, recreate. Here we go. So we are assigning, well, actually, let me just ask you, Abby, what room would you want to be in? Oh, she's not there. Well, let me try. Ms. Watson, can you read me the names of the kids who have their hands raised? Because I can't.
You've got Kaylee, you've got Griffin, you've got Alex, You've got Haben. Whoa, the screen's moving. Hold on. If I said your name, put your hand down so I can keep track of who I already called.
Okay, Kaylee, Griffin, Alex, Haben, who else?
Vi, Raed,
Red,
Nora, it looks like.
you want to go to the
Lily.
game room, Nora? Okay, I'm gonna put those guys in that room, and then who wanted to be in the Wings of Fire group? Alma, who else? Elijah,
No, no, no.
anybody
I
else?
want to be in video games. I want to be in video games.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Guys, I can't tell what's going on. Raise your hand if you want to be in the Wings of Fire. Emma, Alma, Elijah, you don't want to be in Wings of Fire?
No, I want to be in video games.
Okay, well, it's too late for that. We'll fix it later, but I'm past that one. Let's see, who else wants to be in Wings of Fire? Speak up. I've got Alma, I've got Emma, Abby. Oh no, Abby, there you go. Okay, who else? Emma,
Looks like Alex, maybe. I don't know if you got him.
Alex? I already got him in the last group.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then group 3. The third group is sports. Who wants to be in the sports group? Who wants to talk about sports? Anybody? All right, who wants to be in the cooking group? Adrian, who else? Subi, who else? Anybody? Adrian and Subi, I got you too. Anybody else? Em, but I already put you in a different group. Em, I can switch you later, but you're already in another group. Kaylee, you're already in a different group. I've just got Elijah, Joseph, Joey. So Elijah, what group did you want?
Video games?
Video games. Okay. Elijah, video games. Joey, did you want a room?
I want video games.
Okay. Ms. Watson, I'm going to stick you in video games just to supervise because it's getting so huge. Lily, did you want a room? Nope. Tyler, did you want a room?
I want
Video games.
Okay. Gerard, do you want a room? Or are you going to stay with me? Gerard, why don't you stay with me for now? Is that okay?
okay.
All right. Lily, what room?
Video games.
Okay, here we go. Open all rooms. You guys have about 15 minutes to chat. It's going to be an awfully big room. Sorry, Ms. Watson. Em, did you not get invited? You did. Em, did you get an invitation? Okay. Is something wrong? Okay. Are you going? Gerard, can you turn on your screen for a minute, sweetie? Gerard, I need your camera on.
I don't know how to do that.
It's in the corner. There's a little thing that says video. It's in the
Yeah.
corner on the left, and you need to click the little video camera. Okay. All right. And then I want you to go get your interactive notebook for me. Go get your notebook. Do you have your notebooks to show me your assignments? Okay, that's one, but I want you to go get the other ones that you've been writing in with all of the science and the math and the language arts lessons that you've been filling in, because I want you to show me the pages. Terrible internet today. I wonder if it's because you were already on or something and you just sucked it up. Yeah. Did you get the notebook? So Gerard, you know that work you're doing, you need to take your blanket off and just make sure you have a shirt on because I need you to be able to move your arms and not just be all cuddled up. Okay, buddy? He doesn't have a shirt on.